what went wrong for the Premier League champions at Bournemouth, Stephen?
Didn't really get going, to be honest. And quite simply, Bournemouth were the better side. More comfortable in their idea and in their setup. More physical, faster, stronger, quicker in the duels. More creative. They just looked like 11 players who knew what they were doing. 11 players who were fresh, and they did have obviously more time to prepare for it. And you could see that where City looked like a bunch of players who are desperate to be on a beach somewhere right now. You know, they look knackered. And they didn't really have the answers to the problems that Bournemouth posed. And it was a real issue for Guardiola. I think he was aware going into it that it might be the case. But we just struggled. We couldn't handle them. And my biggest fear going into the game was that might have been the scenario. And it has felt like for a long time now this season that this performance has been coming. You know, we've been winning games, we've been unbeaten, but we've been struggling to stimmy counter attacks in particular. Like we look so exposed because our midfield is bypassed so easily, and then we're getting hit on the channels when our fullbacks are pushing forward, be it Vardiol, Lewis, Walker, whoever. And this was the sort of the end game really. That performance was where it was heading this season. Look, I'm not going to panic too much because I do think personnel plays a lot into it, and I don't think it's anywhere close to our best 11 or ideal scenario, even for the players who are on the pitch. There's some very good players there, don't get me wrong, some world class players, but they just look tired. They look run down, and I'm pretty certain if everyone's fit, probably about half that team are resting. So I think it's very much we've been running to the ground, didn't get the setup right. I feel Pep could have been a little bit more adventurous maybe with the team in terms of some of the changes, and that was the result. Bournemouth just ran us off the park.
Yeah, it was a difficult one for City. It was, from a defensive perspective, it was sort of a horror show, really. Plenty of errors. And then from attacking perspective, registering only four of their 19 shots on goal. Very few bright sparks until maybe the last few minutes when the likes of Rico Lewis and Jeremy Doku came off the bench. City probably should have been a bit more pragmatic with the way they've just to deal with the waves of Bournemouth attacks. It was a hard one for City, really. Not a great day collectively, but some will argue as well that maybe the finger should be pointed at a few of the senior players. Maybe you look at someone like Ilkay Gundogan that's come in, not at his best again.
Mm.
Bernardo Silva as well. I mean, he's been such a great servant for City, such a consistent performer, yet he seemed to let his standards slip slightly as well. And also Kyle Walker, he's come back into the team. He looked way off the pace after recovering from injury. Do you think Pep was right to start Walker?
See,
Bearing in mind, he said that he'd not trained for over 2 weeks, and he was thrown straight into the lineup. With those comments, you sort of question whether he's deemed fit to play, let alone start a game like that after not.
yeah, I do think it's a lot it's on a senior place to an extent. I also think a bit on Pep. Look, I'm not going to teach Guardiola. That's okay. Because that guy knows what he's doing. You know, he'll forget more about football than we'll ever know. You know, in a minute. So like, this guy's a genius, but he's not. He's not infallible, and no one is. We all make mistakes, and in hindsight, and it's very easy to sit here and say this as some nobody on the internet, but it's very easy to sit there and say this. But I do feel, if you look where City went wrong, they absolutely overran City. Like they did, like Gundogan, Bernardo, Kovacic, all of them 30 plus. One of them's 30, just turned 34, 35. Bernardo Silva, he's got so much energy, but he's been playing every single week, and he's running on fumes right now. And Kovacic, as good as he can be, he's not a traditional number six, and he's learning a new role. And the thing is, even though he has a decent turn of pace, Kovacic, you can just tell he doesn't always choose right when to use it because that's obviously experience. He's not naturally good at using his body to sort of shield the ball or win. Just when he's not that great defensively. Essentially, he's a good tenacious player, but he's not particularly strong in the challenge or he doesn't time him very well. And then Kyle Walker, Rico Lewis dead on his feet at the end of the last game. So Pep I probably feel like he had no choice but to use Kyle Walker. But he said he hadn't really trained in about 3 weeks. So basically, Kyle Walker was on the pitch at his grand old age of like, what, 34, 35.
34,
He's,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
without any practice whatsoever and thrown in against one of the most informed teams in the league and with flying wingers and Semenyo and Tavernier. Like, they ran City off the park. And I do wish, and it's easy to say this, but given the dire straits City squad's in right now, and it is, and it sounds like I'm pleading for pity here. I'm not as a City fan. I'm just being I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can as an observer. But City's midfield is tired, and the squad is full of injuries and knocks, and They've been plastered up and put back out on the pitch, and Guardiola hoped they could do something. Given that, I sort of hoped that he would just go for it and use some of the young lads because you know you'll get energy with them at very least. Like McAtee is a very similar player to Gundogan. He's not Gundogan, obviously. Gundogan, one of the legends of the game. But McAtee's very similar, but he has that early 20s legs. He can run, where Gundogan can't. Nico O'Reilly is 6'4", and athletic as anything, and he was good in the second half against Spurs in particular. And they're a hard running team, and he matched their aggression. In my head, I'm thinking, why not give these lads a go? Jacob Wright showed an awful lot of responsibility when he came against Spurs as well. And he's 6'1", 6'2". He's a big, strong lad, and he's got physicality to him. And there's that hunger of the youth, that urge to make an impression. And I was sat there thinking, I don't think they could do much worse. And I think what we needed to match were runners in midfield. Even Nunes, I know he played on the left, but I'm thinking at one point it might be worth playing him central. Even if I don't think Nunes personally, I'm not sure if he has the long term quality to be a Guardiola type elite central midfielder. I think he does have the legs and the energy, and I think that's where City got caught out. They were just faster than us. They were fitter than us, and obviously the really good footballers coached really well by Areola. So you've got very good footballers, Premier League level footballers who are faster, fitter, more confident, and younger. The average age was 2.5 years younger for Bournemouth, which is a lot in football. City were pushing 29 years old average age. For Bournemouth's 26 and a half. That's a big difference. So I feel like that's where we went wrong. So Gundogan, I think he came back. I don't think the plan was ever for him to play this much. I don't think it was. I think he was going to be a rotation player with Bernardo, Phil, De Bruyne, Rodri. But now he's playing every single week, and you can see the age in his legs, and teams are fitter even than they were 2 years ago. Like they just seem to be. So many teams have got more aggressive and much more physical. So I think that's where City went wrong, and I do actually wish that Pep had just being a little bit more adventurous, and giving these young players a go because not only do we need it, but they also have the tools to sort of solve some of the problems that we would have faced against Bournemouth in terms of physicality and pace and legs. And sometimes you just need to run just as hard.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned then the youngsters as well. With City's lineup's more or less picked itself because of the injuries, but
Yeah,
this has been the chance to maybe utilize those young players to give the likes of James McAtee, Nico O'Reilly, Jacob Wright the chance. I was impressed by Jacob Wright's sort of cameo appearance against Tottenham. He sort
same.
of put himself about and looked quite good. And Nico O'Reilly's done pretty well when he's come into the team. He's a young player that's stepped up, and McAtee as well. So yeah, it's probably the time now to for Guardiola to maybe give them starts in game because fixtures are coming thick and fast. You'd hope that maybe you'd freshen it up a little bit and give some of those a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it felt like it was called crying out for it because once again, we need it. We need it, and I think they were impressive. I really do feel they were impressive. Look, I understand if you have Kovacic, Gundogan, Bernardo, you're tempted to use them because they are elite level players. All of them Champions League winners, and I understand that. But at some point, when you are desperate, I feel like life sometimes gives you not gives you a solution, proposes one at very least. And they were right there, and I. City looked a little bit leggy until the second half against Spurs when these young lads came on and they showed they're all technically brilliant footballers. They may lack experience, but they're all trained and schooled at Manchester City. They're all so good. And I've noticed it a few times when the academy lads come on, City often look a little bit more technical because even with like world class players, some of these are even more in tune with how City want to play because it's their life. That's what they've been brought up on. So they all know how to do that job. They're not got the experience yet and maybe the finesse, that you would have after 10 years of playing professional football. But they all know how to do that role and they're all young and eager and they have that burning desire of youth to make an impression. And I look when Rico Lewis came on and Jeremy Doku came on, two players who were just bustling with energy and vibrancy. And I don't think it was a coincidence that City looked a lot sharper. And it was down that left hand side because Rico came at left back and Jeremy Doku came at left wing. And I understand they couldn't start, but they were sort of proof of the point that sometimes you just need to match them blow for blow, energy for energy. And I sort of wish Guardiola would do it a little bit because he was very obvious within minutes actually of that first game. They should have scored within a minute. They were banging down that door straight away. And it felt like there was no real attempt to sort of stimmy that. And I'm not going to sit here and moan too much. I'm very much, my feelings around this game are sort of confined to the 90 minutes. And I understand if everyone's fit, it'd be a very different solution, different problem, like, and we would be fine. And so even Kovacic, Gundogan, and Bernardo, they would be better because they would have been rested if with more rotation. But I was just a little bit disappointed because I felt there was a big chance there to take a risk that no one would have blamed him for taking, actually, because of given the squad. And I think we didn't take it. And I think it's a bit of a disappointment.